Okay, so one recent sighting, if you will. It's not really a recent sighting. It's a report or a record of a sighting has come to light via Jeremy Corbell, and I have a couple of different sources here. We have the Times of India as well as Yahoo News, and it's the jellyfish. If you haven't seen it, it's a very interesting looking thing. There's a still of it there, and yeah, so let's look into these two articles here and then we'll take a look at the video itself. So a recent video from a US military base in Iraq has captured public attention by showing an unidentified flying object which has been nicknamed the jellyfish, and it does in fact look like a jellyfish. So the footage comes from, or rather has been shared by Jeremy Corbell, and you can find it on his YouTube channel. You can also find it on his Twitter, which is where we are going to see it. And yeah, it's basically, it shows an object flying in one direction at a steady speed over what is supposedly a military base. So it's odd to look at, and when we see it, you will notice that the object, it changes color, which when it's being shot, filmed if you will, not shot, but when it's being filmed, it'll change color from white to black, and what that indicates is a shift in its temperature. And normally that will happen, but when you're looking at thermal imagery, if that happens, it's normally the whole picture that shifts. It's not one object within that picture, because it's the camera doing its version of focusing. It's changing the range of temperatures, and it'll do that automatically. But in this particular image, or this particular video, it's only the object that changes color. And that's really weird. Now, according to Jeremy, according to Corbell, this object goes across a military base. Then it comes over a body of water. It submerges into a lake, remains there for 17 minutes, comes back up, and then takes off at a 45-degree angle at a speed which it cannot be followed by the camera. So that's one image. So that's one craft. Now the second UAP craft sighting is something that's been dubbed the Chandelier, and there's a lot less on the Chandelier, but we are going to take a look at that in just a moment. So let's come over to Yahoo News. So there we have two images of the jellyfish object. Those are stills. And again, here we have it came over a base in Iraq, October 2018. And then 2 days later, Corbell published the Chandelier UAP. However, here is one thing that is kind of odd. So this week, Marine Officer Michael Kinkowski opened up to News Nation about the footage telling the outlet that the jellyfish was actually nicknamed the Spaghetti Monster when it was collected, and that sightings started at the end of 2017, not 2018. So is he disputing that this footage was filmed in 2018 or 2017? I'm not sure, because he could just be saying that there's actually multiple sightings and that this particular one may or may not have happened in 17 or 18. It's unclear. as to whether he is disputing the fact. According to the source here, the footage was from a balloon that was floating above the base as a way to detect incoming threats. For, quote, toward the end, it seemingly continued off in the distance, he told News Nation, but refuted Corbell's claim that it ever dropped into a lake or shot into the sky. And concluding that it just ended up being a ghost story for the base. So, is this from 2017? Is it from 2018? Did it in fact go into the water? Who knows? What I will say is, if you want more information, you're going to have to go to Tubi, and you're going to have to watch Corbell's 3-part docu-series, TMZ Presents UFO Revolution. Now, I've already skimmed through this, and I've found most of what you're going to want to know. So the jellyfish is going to be in the first episode at around 48 minutes and 40 seconds. That's the jellyfish. It's episode 1, or it's a part of episode 1, rather. And then the chandelier UAP is at the very beginning of episode 3. And there's not much additional information you're going to find. The only thing of note, because I don't want to show you this video here because, you know, he might come after for copyright. But just to kind of mention the video that he has of this similar object. I'm not going to say it's the same object. A similar jellyfish object over water. So, the UI, or the readout, or whatever you want to call it, the HUD, and the reticule changes. It's in the original photo, in the original footage, in this footage here, it's yellow, right? We can all see that's yellow, that's yellow. Well, in the footage that shows a jellyfish-like object over water, and it does look like it's over water because it seems like it's low and it's reflecting off of the surface of the water. This is green. So I'm not entirely sure if it's even the same camera or if it's the same apparatus. He doesn't mention it one way or the other, but as you can see, this one is in fact yellow. So what is this thing? Well, it's hard to tell. It really is. You clearly see something is there. It's above the base. Presumably this is a military installation. We don't know what this place is. It's a collection of buildings. There are dogs which are seen at the very beginning. And it just kind of chills. One thing that is said in the documentary is that the weapon system was not able to lock on to this object. So that's odd, granted. And apparently there are possibly other instances where this sort of thing has happened. Now, I want to pause on this frame here because you can see there are two people walking along, and then this thing just going above them. Now, I'm not saying they're on patrol. I don't know what they're doing. They could just be walking around shooting the shit. But guys, this is Iraq. And they're at the wall. Like that right there, presumably, is the exterior wall to the outside world. There's a person there. There might be a person there. It's kind of hard to make out. There is no way on God's green earth they would not have seen that had it been visible to the visible spectrum of light. There's just no way. Nobody is reacting to it, and they look like they're actually looking in the direction of this object. So that's kind of a red flag for me, that they're not reacting to this thing, because presumably, if you can't tell, obviously, the direction. It's really hard to tell the distance, and there's so many factors that come into saying, well, this object is this size, it's traveling this fast, because we don't know. You need more than one point of reference to be able to judge those things. But if this is directly above these guys, there is no way that they are not seeing it. So the whole thing here on Twitter is 2 minutes and 5 seconds. I'll go ahead and let that play out, and it just kind of moves along. And it just keeps going and going. Now, it doesn't ever... You don't get to see the... You don't get to see it go over water in this one. It just kind of keeps creeping on along. From the Tubi special, the arms of this thing are supposedly rigid. Like, they don't move, they don't bend, they're not tentacles. They are fixed apparatus of some sort. Now, obviously, you can only put up but so much footage on YouTube. So, if you were to go and watch the Tubi thing here, let's see, 48. So there's a close-up of it, right? That's pretty creepy. Whatever it is, if it is real. See, there's the dogs in the background. So, and there it changes color, almost looking transparent, almost, but not quite. So that's weird, right? And again, we can see that the reticule and the HUD is yellow. So now, here's the one over water, and you can see the HUD and the reticule are green. So, does that mean that this is... and look, there's someone else. If he's looking this way, he would be looking right at it. But I don't know if he's... Yeah, he is, because he's walking toward it. So this guy right here most definitely would have seen that thing. So it's weird, to say the very least. It is weird. So, yeah. What is it? I don't know. But apparently it's a quote-unquote ghost story, according to this one Marine officer. Now, the chandelier. So the chandelier was 2 days later, and that's this image right here. So this depicts the chandelier, and again, we don't know where this is. We know that it's in the Persian Gulf somewhere. We have some coordinates, and you have the object, which is the main target. You have a couple of white lines. There's this line, obviously, as well as this zigzag line here. Going to Tubi, if you wanted to see, it's in the very beginning, and really the only thing you have to experience in that particular episode is they have this deal along with an unnamed source, intelligence source, official government intelligence person who knows of the chandelier. So this is commonly referred to as that. People know it as that. And really his comment was, we don't know what it is because it moved in a weird pattern and it's such a weird shape, we don't understand it. Well, the most common refutation of this particular image is that it is some kind of artifact in the camera, or that we could be looking at perhaps the backside of, say, a rocket or a jet, and that is the IR plume kind of coming off of that, or fraction pattern, if you will. If it is, I don't know. I mean, I'm not here to, I don't make those kind of judgment calls. I'm not trained in photogrammetry or anything of that nature, but the geometry of it and just how symmetrical it is, I mean, it could be an artifact of some sort. It doesn't necessarily have to be a UAP, but, it's interesting, and supposedly it is classified as a UAP by the intelligence community. So, those are the two most recent images that have been dropped. So here's the tweet about the chandelier, January 11th. And of course, you can go to weaponizedpodcast.com to listen to his podcast. So, Jeremy Corbell, I follow him on Twitter. Do I believe everything that he says 100%? I'm like that, man. I don't believe anybody. At least, I don't believe anybody 100%. And you shouldn't either. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Watching his Tubi stuff, does he seem genuine? It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, the only thing, and I do mean the absolute only thing, which really gives him credibility. I mean, I don't know much about him. I haven't looked into him. But the only thing that gives him some credibility, in my opinion, is the fact that he works with George Knapp. So, if it weren't for George Knapp, I'd say this guy is just some guy out there living his best life, trying to dig up UFOs. But I do know that there are people who have attempted, I don't know if it was successful, but attempted to debunk some of the stuff that he has reported. So, and the fact that this guy seemingly has sources in the military, in the intelligence community, that are willing to risk imprisonment, will come to this guy, but they'll go to no one else. It's kind of sketch to me. Now, that being said, Dr. Stephen Greer says some of the same stuff, where people are willing to go to him as opposed to go to other people. So, I don't know what to think about him versus anybody else. All I'm going to do is I'm going to say to tell you to take everything you hear with a grain of salt, and that includes coming from me. You don't have to believe me. It doesn't really make any never mind to me. All I'm trying to do is report what I can find on the internet. And as we know, everything on the internet is true. So, anyway, guys, be sure to like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Do you listen to the Weaponized podcast? I've listened to a couple episodes. Have you seen the Tubi 3-piece mini docuseries here? I mean, I find it kind of interesting. It's, I would say if you have 3 hours to spare, it's a pretty good watch. So, and it's free. You don't have to pay for it. Oh, yes. Okay, so when I first saw the chandelier, this is actually what came up in my mind at first, was what movie is Battle of Los Angeles. This is a good movie, by the way, and it's actually inspired by a true event, very, very loosely. But when I saw the chandelier thing, this is what it reminded me of. So this is a scene out of the movie where you have a couple guys on top of a police station and they're on Overwatch looking out for targets. And you have the 2 or 3 grunt aliens to the left a shot, or center and left a shot, and then to the right you have one with dangly bits that kind of floats around. And he's kind of like the officer, I suppose. And that's kind of what made me think of it. But anyway, guys, let me hear your thoughts. Tell me what do you think down in the comment section below, and I will see you next time. But until then, keep searching in the darkness.